To develop a good testing technique and get the most accurate results from your Taylor testing supplies, put these helpful hints into practice. Before beginning a test for the first time, read through the complete instructions carefully. Even when you become so familiar with the test procedure that you don't need to read the instruction, it is best to glance through the instruction when buying a replacement kit in case something has changed. Never swap reagents or testing components from other test kit manufacturers for your Taylor supplies. Although they may be similar in name, every manufacturer makes reagents in different concentrations. Color standards in the test comparators are also unique. After any chemicals are added to the water, wait to conduct any tests until the treatment product has circulated throughout the pool or spa, at least 2 filtration cycles. Taking a water sample is easy, but it must be done correctly to provide accurate test results. The proper techniques demonstrated in this video will show you the best way to obtain a water sample, which is representative of the conditions in the whole vessel. First, find a location away from return lines. If the pool has a shallow and a deep end, take the sample near the point where the bottom of the pool starts to slope toward the deep end. If the water is of uniform depth, positioning is not as important as long as you are not near any return lines or dead zones, like corners or steps. If testing a spa, make sure the jets and blowers are turned off. To take a sample of water sufficient for all tests being run, rinse out a clean plastic bottle that will hold 8 to 12 ounces of the water to be tested. Rinse the cap off too. Then, insert it bottom side up into the water to about elbow depth. We recommend a plastic container since glass could accidentally break. Turn it right side up to fill. When completely full, bring the bottle to the surface. Cap it immediately to keep air out. If you prefer to take multiple samples using the comparator block, follow the same technique. Take the cap off the tube designated for the test. Rinse the cap and tube thoroughly. Insert the comparator block bottom side up to about elbow depth. Turn it right side up, and let the tube fill to the top. Hold the comparator block at eye level to see if the water is resting on the designated fill line for the test you are performing. If there's an excess, simply flick off the extra with a quick motion of your wrist. Note: inside a test tube, all samples will display some curvature at the surface of the water. This curvature is called the meniscus and is due to a molecular attraction between the container and its contents. For the proper sample volume, be sure the low point of the curvature rests on the fill mark. Using the proper sample volume is very important, otherwise accurate measurements cannot be obtained. For the most accurate results, begin testing immediately after obtaining your sample. Allowing a sample to sit exposed to air for even a few minutes may cause values to change, especially when testing sanitizer levels. Taylor's dropper tips are carefully sized to dispense a specific amount of reagent when the bottle is held vertically. Holding the bottle at an angle will distort the drop size and lead to inaccurate results. Always hold the bottle straight up and down when adding drops of reagent to ensure uniform drop size. Static electricity sometimes builds up around the dropper tip, reducing the drop size. This also will lead to inaccurate results. When you see the drop size getting smaller, simply wipe around the dropper tip with a clean, damp cloth or paper towel to remove the static electricity. It is important to mix reagents thoroughly into the water sample. With color matching tests, this is done by capping the sample tube and gently inverting, not shaking, the comparator block several times. With titrations, mixing is accomplished by swirling. Swirling is mainly wrist action. When preparing the sample, you swirl after adding the total number of drops of neutralizer or indicator specified. When adding the titrant to get to the end point of the reaction, you swirl for a second or two after each addition of reagent. Note: if you are performing a calcium hardness test and there is magnesium hardness present in the water too, you may see some pink floaters that will not dissolve even though you have swirled properly. Disregard these floaters. They will not affect the test results. Some Taylor tests depend on the analyst's ability to match the color of the treated sample to a color standard. When performing these colorimetric tests, Match colors in natural light, northern light if possible. Hold the comparator block at eye level. Do not wear sunglasses. For indoor situations, we recommend using a daylight simulator lamp since artificial lighting affects color perception. Other Taylor tests depend on the analyst's ability to see a color change happen. The color change must be permanent to be the endpoint of the titration. Transitional colors must not be confused with the endpoint color. If in doubt, when you see the endpoint color specified in the test instruction, add 1 extra drop of titrant. If the color remains unchanged, you can be confident you reached the endpoint with the previous drop. Do not count the extra drop if this is the case. Before performing another test, it is important to flush out the sample tube with tap water or fresh sample water. Otherwise, residual chemicals will contaminate the next test. When testing is complete, the comparator block should be thoroughly rinsed, then dried before storage. This will prevent residue from staining the test cell and compromising future color interpretations. Speaking of avoiding reagent contamination, do not interchange reagent bottle caps or use your finger to cap the sample tube. And make sure you tighten bottle caps securely after each use. Now, a word about prolonging the useful life of your reagents. Like food and medicine, these chemicals are perishable. They should be stored under controlled conditions for the greatest shelf life. When not in use, keep them tightly capped in a cool, dark place, but do not let them freeze. When poolside for testing, keep bottles not in use in their case out of prolonged direct sunlight. And do not store reagents next to treatment chemicals whose fumes can degrade them. If properly cared for, Taylor reagents will remain effective for at least 1 year from manufacture. Some, such as acids, much longer. However, to be cautious, we recommend starting each new swim season with fresh reagents. Finally, a reminder: keep your testing supplies out of the reach of children.
Taylor's knowledgeable customer service representatives are available to provide technical assistance about our products. Call 800-TEST-KIT